Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and we are kicking off day 2 of the Global Education Conference, although there's really no easy way with 34 time zones to identify when day 2 actually started. But we're delighted to have Homa Tavangar here. And Homa, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Steve. As I said, I really appreciate the work you and Lucy do in getting this Global Education Conference running and growing so fabulously.
We love this event. We're exhausted when it's done, but we love this event. We really want to thank our sponsors and supporters. Huge shout out to Iron USA for their continued support, Global Campaign for Education in the second year, VIF, Intel, Wonderment, National Geographic, Flat Connections. But this is just a great list, and we really appreciate the excitement around global education that we've experienced, particularly in the last year. Feels like a sea change for us. For those of you who are participating live, if you've been here before, you know this drill. You're looking for the star icon to the left of the map. It's the second one down. You click on that twice, and then you click on the map. And do put a note in the chat. Let us know time, temperature, anything that would be of interest as we watch stars pop up in different places in the world. I'm in rather chilly North Carolina, where we do have a cold front. It is still pretty early. Craig, you're at 6 a.m., so congrats for getting up early. So keep those notes going in the chat, but I want to give Homa as much time as possible, so I'm going to move forward. Again, Homa, thanks for being here. Oh, let me give a quick intro. So Homa is the author of Growing Up Global, Raising Children to Be at Home in the World. She's the co-author of the just-released The Global Education Toolkit for Elementary Learners. And she's a contributor to Mastering Global Literacy by Heidi Hayes Jacobs. Growing Up Global has been hailed by national education and business leaders and media ranging from Dr. Jane Goodall to the BBC, NPR, ABC, WashingtonPost.com, Chicago Tribune, and Sun Times, Boston Globe, PBS, Scholastic, Parents Magazine, Rodale, and many more. And she has huge fans from the organizers of the Global Education Conference. So welcome to Homa.
Thank you so much, Steve. That means so much to me to hear that, because I'm such an admirer of everything that you guys are doing. It is such a labor of love, as is, I think, all of this global education work. I think it is such a labor of love. And somehow I want this title to reflect that meaningful learning and connection is really a labor of love. And in many ways, that's kind of the heart of what I want to get to in this talk, that it is way beyond food, fun, and festivals, although as we'll see, I do not treat those as the F words in global education. So I want to just give a shout out on this second slide. Everyone is on this second slide that's at the top, says globaledtoolkit.com. You're saying the same thing I am?
We are.
Good. So I just want to give a little shout out to my co-author, Becky Morales. She is at Kid World Citizen. And this has been a really fascinating journey. We started this exercise in writing the Global Education Toolkit as a sort of, we wanted to make almost like a downloadable PDF brochure. Becky and I met via Twitter, and she is an extraordinary volunteer and teacher in the Houston, Texas area. And as you can see, she herself has a very global family. And so this started as how to do an international night or event or week, and it grew into so much more with a lot around curriculum and every subject area. And so this sort of Beyond Food, Fun, and Festivals in a way also describes the journey that we took in putting together what started as a brochure and what has resulted in a really comprehensive book, website, lots of materials around it, and some of which I hope that we can talk about today, and really just talk about how we can get to that point. And I think that with baby steps, it is not too hard. So I like to start with a few building blocks of, I think the mindset is really more important than the apps and the specific websites. The specific websites and apps, they get upgraded and changed every year, but it's sort of that what's in the heart and the head that is what will drive this process. And many of you have seen, I love this quote from the Saudi astronaut on the International Space Mission, where he talks about the first day or two we all pointed to our countries, the third or fourth day we were pointing to our continents, by the fifth day we were aware only of the earth. And I love this as a metaphor for the capacity it shows that we have to expand our thinking and how quickly we can achieve that. In spite of the fact that these International Space Mission astronauts were representing their own countries, it's almost unstoppable, this feeling of global perspective. And this is a great way of seeing that. And at the same time that we're thinking really big picture, we're also going very deep inside. And so the bottom little model picture of a DNA molecule is, to me, reflective of this quote of Carl Sagan's, where there are as many atoms in each molecule of your DNA as there are stars in the typical galaxy. And so we have that wonder and complexity, and really it's like a connection to the universe right inside each of us. We are biologically programmed to have that complexity, and that's a mirror reflection of this universal reality. And it gets a little, I don't know, airy-fairy, whatever you want to call it, but I just find it to be a fascinating flip side that is so close, and it shows how intimate and immersive and internal the experience of global education can be. Another important principle for me is to think about what is a global citizen? Go back to the heart of this concept, where global citizenship is not simply an academic, external, far away concept, but it's something very close to each of us. It's very intimate. And this photo, which I've shared, if any of you have ever seen a presentation that I've done, I think I share this photo every single time. It means a lot to me. The girl who is the second one on the right is my eldest daughter. At the time, she was in 8th grade. We lived in the Gambia, West Africa, for a term of school. And this was she and her classmates a few weeks into our being there. And I was so struck by the warmth and the welcoming and the friendship that she and my other 2 daughters also experienced. And I stumbled on this quotation, "Be a friend to the whole human race," as I was looking for a way to discuss global citizenship with my own friends and neighbors here in suburban Philadelphia, in a way that they would relate to and enjoy. And for example, if the term global citizen came up on TV, they wouldn't simply change the channel. I don't want them to change the channel. I want them to stay on this channel. And what will be compelling enough to keep them on this channel? Travel is compelling. Many parts of global citizenship are compelling, but they may not relate to it as well. And I found that friendship is this incredible universal concept where how about we do this? In the chat box, when you think of friendship, participants, what terms do you think of? What are some qualities of a good friend? How does a good friend treat you? How are you treated? How do you want to be treated? What does it look like to be a good friend? So I see respect, they honor who I am, stands the test of time, honest, reliable, I love it, safety, a good listener, loyal, respect and caring, funny, absolutely, and fun too, right? Lend me money, maybe. So these qualities, you can keep going if exactly, cares for your well-being, if there are other terms that you think of. So the fascinating thing, I think, is that when it seems like David Wexler here has had some interesting experience with friends lately. Present even when absent. I love that. They're there for you all the time. So the idea of these qualities of being a friend, they got your back. Absolutely. I love that. That's how I would describe a global citizen on a wider in a wider perspective. Respect, loyal, caring, honest, there for you, there for the world, aware of what's happening, and if your friend is in trouble, you're going to be there for them. And so when I discuss global citizenship in this context of friendship, it's interesting that I see light bulbs go off all the time for people, that all of a sudden people who never imagined, they don't see themselves as a citizen of the world. They may see themselves as a citizen of their country. This kind of helps flip the conversation to something that's much more personal. And there is a personal responsibility to that as well as also being fun. It's not all serious all the time. And that's an important aspect, I think, as well of global education, that it's intimate while it's also fun. It's outward-looking and service-oriented, as well as just, learning the information that we need to learn as you learn about what a friend is about and cares about. And I think the challenge is that we are more plugged in than we've ever been before, but how do we create connection? But that doesn't mean we're more connected, even if we're more plugged in. So how do we create connection on the level of human relationships? I think this Global Education Conference is a wonderful example of creating connections while being plugged in, because I notice a lot of people, myself included, are really making friends and building partnerships as a result of these online connections. So shifting gears just a little bit, those are just a few of the sort of conceptual ideas that I like to start with as a foundation for where my thinking is coming from. In the Global Education Toolkit, we sort of have two distinct strands of two approaches. One is curricular and classroom-based. So we spend a lot of time looking at how to integrate global concepts and perspectives and information into every academic subject area. And I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. And then we also do talk about special events and an international week or an international day. And so this idea of, oh, don't just have food, fun, and festivals. And it's sort of, like I mentioned, a kind of the F word in global education. It is not, I think what Becky and I try to show is we don't think that's a bad thing. So even though my title of this talk is Beyond Food and Fun and Festivals, I think that it is okay and just fine to start with food fun and festivals if that's where you're at. If that shows progress, if that shows a shift from what you've done before, having an international night, which is a festival or a celebration, is a joyful thing, and that's really okay. And we can talk about that a little bit if people are interested. I just want to show, these are some of the areas, this is some of the territory that we cover in the Global Education Toolkit. And I'm not going to go into this in detail, but this will be saved in the archive, and it's also the outline, and a lot of information is available on the website for even without purchasing the book. But what I really want to spend time on are these guiding principles so that global education is not just an add-on. So if we have an international night or week, for example, here are some of the starting points to help integrate this into a wider, longer-term global education program and sort of getting beyond those food fun and festivals. So I'm going to go into each one in a little bit of detail, and I really enjoy glancing at the comments on the side, and as you think of something, I'm going to also ask a few questions as we go into this. So the first pillar is to start with what you love. Achieving a balance between encouraging wonder and exploration that's super local alongside instilling a global perspective. So meaningful global education is not exclusive of being involved in your local community and being aware of and engaged locally. Anyone that tries to set up this as a conflict is really setting up a false dichotomy or a false conflict. I find that a lot of times those who are engaged in, for example, hunger globally, absolutely will care about hunger locally. And this is part of being a friend to the whole human race. This is not a conflict. And I love this quote from Joseph Campbell: "Follow your bliss, and the universe will open doors where there were only walls." So start with what you love. Follow your bliss. You don't know where to begin in beginning a global program in your school? Start with your bliss. Follow your bliss. So how do you find that? How can the global become personal? And I thought what would be interesting is if in this chat box you participants share what are some of your passions, maybe a hobby, maybe an interest, and can you think of ways to turn this into a global education experience? So these pictures, for example, demonstrate examples like soccer, even golf, movies. If knitting is your hobby, maybe you're sourcing your yarns, maybe you're involved in an organization like Kid Knits, which is sourcing yarn from Rwanda and various countries, making hats for babies that will then be donated to local hospitals. It's a great example of local and global. A chess club can be a global chess club as you're playing with people from all over the world. Watching your favorite movie, even Frozen, I feel like has become a great global education or a global experience by having it in so many languages, singing the songs. There are lots of great videos that show the songs sung in different languages. And of course, food and the table. If you're a foodie, food can be a really easy, really fun entry point for global education. And I don't think there's anything superficial about it. So if you guys, if there are any other like hobbies or ways that you show how you may integrate something that is your passion or interest or hobby or bliss, and how that can tie into global education, that's kind of a fun thing to hear how people do that. A technology class looking at innovation from around the world, I think can also be a very humbling experience, because kids can learn that, oh, you know, for example, in the United States, we didn't invent everything. And it can be a lot of fun that way. More light bulbs go off. A lot of teachers, your passion and mine as well, can be to read great literature or fiction or nonfiction. And the passport, your library card, can really be your passport. And I think the example of what we are reading is very powerful for our children and our students. If they know that we are interested in what's happening in the world, then it becomes less an agenda item that we are trying to just impose on our students. And it's just something that's a lot more fun. So, Gail, I love the example that you've listed of playground games. I think that's games are fabulous. Sports and games are a fabulous way to connect with the wider world. So if you have a book recommendation, I have a few here listed in the pictures that I've enjoyed in getting a view of different cultures and worlds. But if there's a book recommendation, I think that it's important to feed our own interests as well, and not just always thinking of activities for others. I like that. So others are reading these books as well. So the most recent two I've read, Behind the Beautiful Forevers and Americana, I really enjoyed. And by the way, I've also been enjoying listening to these as audiobooks. And if you haven't read Americana yet by Adichie, I recommend that as an audiobook, because the accents and the tones are just really really fun. It really takes you to Nigeria, England, US. So the next principle is, and keep listing those books. Even if I don't acknowledge them, I enjoy hearing what you're saying is maybe a book that has influenced you or that you're reading right now. The next one, the next principle in creating more meaningful connections is avoiding silos. Finding champions, envisioning broadly. So what I mean by that is I think that global education is often siloed into, you may be the person in the building that people can refer to as, oh, he's the global guy, right? He's the one who, maybe you were a Peace Corps volunteer, or maybe you've lived abroad or worked abroad. And so anything international goes to you. How can you start to build friends and collaborators in your building? I think of them as champions, other champions along with you, or if you know of somebody in your school or a colleague who is the champion of global education, how can you support them to join you? The other sort of silos, I think, are often subject area silos or activity silos. So if the jocks at school are the opposite of the global education folks, that's kind of a false separation. That's a false silo. How can we turn that into, how can they champion us and work with the gym teacher, whether it's learning more about, for example, why is that baseball program so strong in the Dominican Republic and Japan and various countries? Or what kind of sports can we learn that we don't really play so much here, like cricket, or in some places field hockey? Or watch that field hockey movie from India and see how they kind of take that. And this can be something really exciting, and it really is a way of building coalitions in school. Oh, by the way, going back to that slide, I want to put a shout out. I made this I'm very weak at it, but I did this through Buncee.com, which is a new tool that is also looking for classrooms to connect, and they are creating these Buncees together interactively, and they can be slides or greeting cards. They're a fun. It's kind of a fun new tool. This is a topic that I brought up, but embracing technology as a tool for meaningful connection and not an end in itself. I think that the Global Education Conference is a terrific example of that, but often in class we lose sight of that. I'd be interested to know, for those of you that are in the main room, how many are on Twitter and use Twitter as a tool for your professional development or for your class connecting with other classrooms. I find Twitter to be one of the most powerful tools. Yes, and share your Twitter handles and let's follow each other. I would love to do that. And so you use mostly Tumblr. That's interesting. So Tumblr is not one that I'm on. And I also find sometimes it does get a little overwhelming with so many tools. So I try to choose the tool wisely and go from there. So here's an example of kindergartners. So people usually think, oh, well, Twitter works for older kids, but I love this, all the Twitter activity among kindergarten classes. They might share what they're having for school lunch. They might share postcards that they're receiving from different parts of the world. Sometimes they look outside their window and they share, here's what I see outside my window. And that in itself can be so exciting and a prompt for writing, for conversation, and you just build from there. And then you learn how to use social media responsibly as well, which I think is a crucial part of this activity, is digital citizenship. Another platform for, pillar of my approach to global education is that it is a platform for social and emotional learning. And I can't think of global education or being a friend to the whole human race without the concept of empathy. And I think empathy is really at the heart of this. This text is from an article that I did profiling Ashoka and their Start Empathy initiative, which is another program that I think is fabulous if your school would like to apply for and tap into it's a hashtag Start Empathy through Ashoka. And this was a piece, if you want to look it up, I did it on Edutopia. So if you just look up Edutopia Empathy Tavangar, you'll find the links and more information on this. But the idea that empathy starts with putting yourself in someone else's shoes, a key step in understanding perspectives that differ from your own. This isn't just a nice thing to do, it's an essential active skill. It's foundational to embracing differences, building relationships, gaining a global perspective, conducting richer and deeper analysis, and communicating more effectively. This skill is about as 21st century as it gets. And like a muscle, empathy gets stronger and stronger with practice and can be developed by any grade school child. This is the muscle that allows you to stand up for something, not just stand by. So it really is the foundation of being a friend to the whole human race as well as being a citizen of the world. And I see this application of empathy into every subject area. And as you start to build that muscle, we can look at that. So this is the chart that you can get from the Edutopia article. And it's this process of prepare, engage, and then finally reflect and act for incorporating empathy into any part of your day. So this is an example of sort of testing our limits. literally with a map. So we're very familiar with this Mercator projection map. This is the way we, most of us, traditionally view the world. And if I could see you raising hands, I would see that this is the map that you're probably more used to seeing versus this map, right? So this is the Peters projection, and when I ask groups which map are you more comfortable with, it's this one, right? This is the way the world looks to us. And yet, maybe Steve, if you can prompt that video, what do maps have to do with social equality? So this is a much more fun way of looking at the difference between these two maps and which one is correct than I could explain. So Steve, go ahead. Are you there?
I'm going to put the link to the map or to the video in the chat. So if it doesn't show up on the web tour, do feel free to click on the chat link and open it in your own web browser. And then Homa and I will turn off our microphones so the video sound doesn't come back through.
And I love the map discussion people are sharing. I'm going to give a few seconds for people to catch up because if they had to load, no video on Mac. Okay, sorry about the, for those of you who weren't able to follow along, trust me, it's a great video. Go back, Steve and others have posted the link. And the West Wing skit shows it a lot better than I could have explained. So it's a big difference, the way we see the world. And it does have to do with social equality. And so here's an example of how even the map you choose to use can reflect the empathy perspective and principle that you carry in your classroom. And I like the discussion that people were sharing in the chat about all the many different types of maps, the quote-unquote upside down map, which, as they said, why is that upside down? That's just a matter of what we're used to. So love that to sort of stretch the mind. The kind of related looking at maps is look at Africa. And we, you know, my pet peeve is talking about Africa as a country. And if anyone ever says speaking African, I just want to shoot myself. But this is a great depiction to scale of how large the continent of Africa actually is. And I wrote a piece. I'm going to put the link here. Teach kids about Africa as if our lives depend on it, and maybe they do, that I put up in the Huffington Post yesterday. I think it was posted. I am trying to add the link in the chat box. Steve, I am not able to do that. I don't know if I need to type it.
You're trying to do a paste?
Yeah.
It should work, although you may want to click at the top of your Blackboard Collaborate session just to make sure you've selected the program as a whole.
Oh, somebody put it? Somebody else did it for me? Oh, thank you. Craig. Thank you. Craig has posted it. Oh, I appreciate that very much. So yeah, so that's got some more specific ideas about, particularly for younger grades, to get beyond the sort of Western Eurocentric view of Africa. And it's only a beginning. There's so much more that can be done to sort of teach about Africa in a quality way. And I was particularly prompted to write about that with all the panic that's been unleashed about Ebola. And I'm particularly concerned. One article that I have linked towards the top of that is about the real isolation that's happening in places like Sierra Leone, which really can't afford any more isolation educationally in particular. They're just getting over civil war and recovering from the horrors of their civil war. And now their schools are shut down indefinitely. So that's something that I think is really important for us to think about. The consequences of the way we're thinking about Africa has real consequences. Also, maybe I'll tweet this out. In my Growing Up Global page, I actually shared a few days ago the reaction of cocoa farmers to their very first time ever tasting or seeing chocolate. So they've been growing cocoa in total isolation. This doesn't apply to every single cocoa farmer, but many of the remote cocoa farmers are also located in these countries in West Africa where Ebola has reared its ugly head. And these cocoa farmers, seeing their reaction, it's really emotional, actually. Especially most people love chocolate, and to see where it comes from and to see how removed these cocoa farmers are from the product is kind of it's really moving and astounding to see. But I love this map. I could just stare at this map for a long time. Perspective taking. This is also an interesting series of graphics that show, here's the comparison of a German perspective in blue to a Chinese perspective on punctuality, making connections or networking, how you express anger. Do you show it on your face or not? And identity. Are you you see yourself as on your own, or is your identity linked really closely to a group? And this can be a fascinating prompt, or just, I just think you almost can't do enough perspective taking. And it is a generalization, so that's important to recognize, but it also is potentially useful and just fascinating. And here are some more perspectives on that. What's your cure for a stomach ache? How do you approach problem solving? Do you go right through it or around it? What's the literally social circle at a party? How do you form an opinion? So where do you stand on this? So sort of a spectrum, which would be really neat. Yeah, I like that idea. If you teach at a diverse school, to have your own students create their own graphic, how their family, what's their cure for a stomach ache, identity, all those kinds of things. And there are more of these figures. They're awesome. I'm very moved. I don't know how many of you teach high school, but another perspective that went viral that really, to me, is just poignant as far as showing global perspectives. I'm not going to read this because it will take a little while to discuss, but look up this response, the Sikh woman's response to the online ridicule on Reddit, the long story is she educated the bullies online who made fun of her appearance for having facial hair, and very lovingly explained the sort of spiritual perspective, really, of her faith. And when she educated, and it took a little bit of time, but once she educated the bullies, they really joined with her and have since done some work together, and they have, not just mended fences, but they have really reached out and befriended each other. The people on Reddit have apologized publicly with a public long letter of apology, and this has become a really fascinating case study of perspectives and how they start in one camp and meet somewhere in the middle, or not really in the middle, but meet in a more united way once they understand each other better. So this, I love this idea of another principle, another one of these pillars, is that global adventure begins right where we live. So mine your own community. What are the resources in your own community? It could be the fruit in the grocery store. It could be the children, particularly the children, the workers, the families at your school. Do a little circle in your class and have everyone read where their shirt was made. What does the label behind their shirt say? And take a journey of how that got to where we are now. So we just see the influences are all over the place, and any one of these can serve as a prompt for a global adventure without purchasing plane tickets. So we spend a lot of time in the Global Education Toolkit looking at common lessons or common themes, and here, for example, is, yeah, I love the double meaning of mine. Yes, thanks. Integrating global lessons and common themes in elementary schools. So in any one of these, how can you bring up globally relevant issues? And I think sometimes a simple brainstorming among colleagues can help pull up ideas that will really make that lesson a lot more interesting. Some people may be teaching this for 25 years, and it does get kind of tired. But global perspectives can make this a much more interesting unit. And so we show, here's a very brief example of how we do that. So in a common unit, which is families or communities, look at the differences and similarities you find, and these are hyperlinks to schools, homes, children around the world. And there are many books and resources that show what these, for example, different homes around the world might look like, and why would they build their house in those forms? What is the history? What is the climate? What's the science behind doing any of those? Water cycle, many common lessons. If you're doing Common Core in your state or your school district, I think, as much as I am not a huge fan of the Common Core, if you are doing this, there is it does tie in pretty naturally with global education priorities as well. So many of the standards in language arts talk about collaborative conversations, and there's nothing more collaborative conversation than finding peers around the world to have that conversation with, whether it's in real time or it's using different technologies for delayed time, blogging, lots of different things that you can have these collaborative conversations. So here's an example. The Global Read Aloud is a fabulous project, for example, and we do showcase it in the book, and I know that Pernille Rip is presenting and involved with the Global Education Conference, but she has really kind of built a movement around a global book club. Skyping in the classroom, finding partners through Skype in the classroom, ESL partners if you've got ESL classes, partnering with other kids in your school can create a global connection right there. And I think a wonderful way to structure how you can plug in a lesson to have a global perspective is to use this global competency framework that was developed by the Asia Society's Partnership for Global Learning. You plug in your theme, and let's say it's water, or let's say it's families, or whatever this is that you want to teach. And I'll go through the boxes real quick. How do you, for example, new ways to investigate the world? What kind of literature are you using? What kind of websites? Sort of blow the doors open on the resources that you use. And Kid World Citizen, Becky's website, has a lot of great books, as well as our global toolkit has a bibliography or an appendix of over 320 titles, multicultural book titles. So recognizing perspectives is another sort of box that you plug in for gaining a global perspective. I showed a few examples of how to recognize perspectives, but reading similar stories from different countries. Here's the example I was mentioning about houses from around the world, or schools from around the world, lunches from around the world. All of this is very easily accessible online. A topic that is being focused on as one of the keynotes I'm very excited about the Global Education Conference is doing is the Out of Eden Walk, and I've had the privilege of working closely with Paul Salopek, and we profile the Out of Eden Walk in the Global Education Toolkit aligned with Common Core standards as a terrific example of taking in various perspectives on this 7-year journey by foot that children around the world are welcome to join in and take their own observing walk, or many other exercises that are integrated in the Out of Eden Walk as a tool. So this will be archived, but there are so many ways to help recognize perspectives. This can sort of be a strong checklist of ways to reach out. Communicate ideas. Please get beyond the worksheet and the poster. I'm not going to play this video right now, but Linda Yallis's Benefits of Blogging video is a great example in a couple minutes of showing how her kids in her class, good, Steve has posted the link, blog and link around the world. And these are, I think, 3rd graders. And then finally, there are 2 clinchers, I think, to the process of gaining a global perspective as well as empathy building, and that's taking action. So service and action, and here are examples of real concrete projects that we profile initiated by young children, young students in the Global Education Toolkit to make this global experience real and to also feel like you're making a difference. It's also a huge way to integrate empathy into whatever you're doing. So here are some more organizations. You don't have to go it alone or reinvent the wheel. And these are organizations that would love to help you or that you could tap into. And I think this is kind of our Global Ed family. Many of these organizations are sponsors, partners, presenters in this conference, which is really kind of building this Global Ed family of resources. And finally, what I was going to mention is the process of reflection is crucial. It's part of the empathy building cycle. Reflecting on and taking action together really go hand in hand. Mindfulness is really a part of that, as somebody mentioned. I want to leave you with this short video. Steve, if you could play, and I'll prompt it. This is Wangari Maathai, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, and I think that it gives us encouragement for moving forward. She herself overcame so many obstacles and eventually built a movement that planted over 1 billion trees in spite of her countless obstacles. And basically shows us that drop by drop, we will make a difference. My video
I was waiting for you to
is
finish
not loading.
talking.
I don't know
So,
about.
no, you're good.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I was just
So I'm
talking.
going to
It's
click
not
play
loading.
here.
Okay.
If it doesn't play for you in the web tour, I have put a link in the chat, and you can click there. So here we go.
So I just love that. Does this exist in French? I don't know if this is translated into French. That's a good question. But it's a 2-minute project, and maybe that's a great student project for a French class to translate it into French. So these are the principles that I started with that I think are this is what has threaded through the presentation, and I hope that this, leaving you with this idea of being like the hummingbird, can help us to feel a little less overwhelmed with all the resources that are out there, a little more empowered and forgiving of ourselves, that drop by drop we take the steps that we can, and we keep in mind the meaningful connection. So I don't know if there are any questions in these few minutes that remain. If anybody would like to. Yes.
I'm clapping for you. It's really hard to find the clapping icon here, but it's under the smiley face, and you can click applause. Would it be okay with you if you put your email address in and people could ask questions by email, because we need to give people a couple of minutes break for the next set of sessions?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You did a terrific job. That was really lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I'm going to leave things open here, so if you want to put a note in the chat or you want to make sure to grab Homa's email address, you can do that. Of course, the recording will be up in just a few minutes. We do have another set of sessions starting in about 3 minutes, so take a quick stretch, and we hope you'll stick with us. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And ask me questions via Twitter. That'll be the easiest, and we can, kind of share it with the world. I love to hear the feedback. I'm very easy to get in touch with. Thanks all.